The Environment Department says 12 to 24% of at least 61,000 metric tons of the solid waste generated by the Philippines is plastic. And in a bid to beat plastic pollution, design and production studio Plastics by Manila Automat is breathing new life into plastic waste by engaging everyday consumers in the process of accessible and modern-day recycling. To tell us more, joining us this morning is its founder and creative head, Mica Agregado. Good morning, Mica.
Morning,
it's great to have you. Let's talk about how Manila Automat sort of got started and why make plastic waste the center of your project and your work.
So actually, I had experience in working with communities, particularly like craft communities.
Yep.
I worked with pottery makers. I worked with brick makers, sculptors, and they all use natural resources like wood, clay, and so on. And I've thought to myself, like, what if we use single-use plastics? And through like extensive research for starting 2019, we've learned that we can actually use single-use consumer plastics into a new kind of material.
Okay, so they are in fact not just single-use. I mean, you found another use for them. Tell us a little bit about your process, what materials come into play, and how you process it.
So from the 7 types of consumer plastics that are available, we technically upcycle 2 types of plastics.
Okay.
This is HDPE2, I'm just going to shorten it,
Yeah.
and LDPE4. These are called thermoplastics, meaning if you melt them at a certain temperature, they can be remolded and shaped to a new object.
Okay, what exactly are we talking about here? Do I understand this right? Bottle caps,
Yes.
certain types
So
of...
these are, these are bottle caps, shampoo bottles,
Yeah.
the large containers you'd see in supermarkets that contains your detergents or
Right.
your shampoos and so on.
Okay, so you've turned what is essentially the classic trash into treasures.
Yes.
You know, some fantastic art pieces. Tell us a little bit about some of the samples that you've got here. You know, what have you come up with, and the source material. It's hard to imagine that this beautiful stuff that we have here was once, you know, trash.
Yeah. So what we do is called molding, compression molding. So we have different kinds of metal molds and materials to use to compress these plastics and to shape them anew. So what we have here on the table right now are our selection of our bowls, our holders, and we also do different kinds of items and objects, such as trophies, medals, but we also do furniture actually, and also accessories,
Okay.
like, such as earrings, necklaces. I mean, the sky's the limit when it comes to making things with single-use plastic.
Okay, what is the material most ideal for? Does it lend itself to, I don't know, is it bendy? Is it brittle? What does this material sort of lend itself to?
So type 2 and type 4 plastics are very flexible plastics, meaning the colors specifically are very wide in terms of hues and ranges. So for the types of blue plastics we collect, there are different kinds of blue plastics that can be found in the consumer market. So there are very specific blue bottle caps we collect, very specific shampoo bottles we collect. And once we melt them together, the beautiful thing about single-use plastics, particularly type 2, is they have this marble-like properties.
Yeah, we can see
once you
it
combine
here.
them together. Yes.
It's beautiful. It's a beautiful effect. What sort of, I don't know, how did you discover this process? I'm sure there was some trial and error. And is there any kind of special equipment or machines required? I mean, you've obviously got some compression molding equipment of some kind, but how did you sort of discover the process and eventually, you know, streamline it to a point where you can actually come up with products like these?
So there's actually an initiative abroad called Precious Plastics, and it's an open source resource for starting your own upcycling studio, and it's a matter of adapting those learnings and doing it trial and error DIY style. So actually the materials we started with are just plain old ovens, toasters, metal molds that we just fabricated through welding, and through there we've able to systematize, make it more consistent, make it more industrial. So it's a mix of industrial and DIY throughout the process, and it's very much trial and error and research and development.
Well, as the old saying goes, if there is a will, there is a way. You will find a way to get the results that you're looking for. Now, you talked about collecting these bottle caps, particular types of plastics. What system do you have in place, and you know, where does the material come from, and are you working with any particular communities that benefit from your efforts?
So what's great with our initiative is we started with open calls. What's important with plastics collection is, again, from the 7 types of plastics, it's very important for the community to know the kind of plastics they're collecting. So we started with posting online guides on what kinds of plastics to collect, what kind of bottle caps, how to, actually we have this thing called the 3Cs, which is to collect, clean, which is the most important part, and create. So what we're doing with our community is letting them be involved with the collect and clean process. So we have drop-off boxes, we have like collection drives whenever we're in the area, and we also connect with our local barangay LGU.
I mean, what's the model behind this? I mean, you guys are obviously doing an amazing service by collecting what is essentially, you know, plastic trash and turning it into something, again, useful and something that is, I assume the products find their way to the market. Are they sold? Are there, you know, is there a, well, under your brand? How do different brands collaborate with your efforts?
So we actually have different different setups for our enterprise, for our upcycling studio. We have studio collaborations, so this is a more traditional route that's business to business, business to designers. So we've actually worked with enterprises, NGOs such as WWF. We work with the government such as the DTI Design Center. And
Corporate
we also
CSRs would be a great
CSRs, definitely.
Well,
Actually, we have worked with Sun Life Philippines for their CSR programs.
Great.
So we've also recycled different kinds of items and into a different into an artwork for Sun Life Philippines.
Okay, this term, what does it mean to be a studio collaborator, and what does it mean to do the tying up of loose ends program, so to speak?
So we have this community program called Tying Up Loose Ends. Because in the creative process, you want our community to be involved with like the step-by-step process. Because that way, they'll be more engaged on what kind of plastics to collect, what kind of ideas that can be sprung into from the connections that we make. So our Tying Up Loose Ends is divided into two programs. We have workshops. These are more hands-on workshops for communities, especially with participants who want to engage and start their own livelihood businesses. So we've actually set up like an afternoon workshop where they can actually make something from the single-use plastics they consume. So for example, with WWF Philippines, we actually work with the students of Batangas in making their own social enterprise by starting to collect shopping bags and making them into wallets and actually like earrings and keychains.
That's amazing, amazing. Really, the kind of work and the kind of results that you're getting from your efforts is really amazing. I mean, not only do you have these fantastic, useful articles and that are literally created from trash, but you're lessening the amount of plastic waste out there, and you're empowering communities to take matters into their own hands. Now, speaking of being engaged or getting communities engaged, how can people who find this kind of thing interesting, and I think we all should sort of lend a helping hand here, how can they find and join the cause of plastics by Manila Automat?
They can join us on our social media websites at plastics.manila automat. They can also join our workshops. So we're going to have an upcoming workshop this October, details to follow. And also, we can actually start by just learning how to segregate. Know more about the plastics we consume every day and learn how to segregate every day. So we can also contribute to a bigger cause.
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, I've been in the game for a while now. I've been trying to do my part, but every time I see, projects like these, I really do see that there are so many different ways that we can all be involved and sort of contribute to a solution rather than being part of the problem. Mica, you're doing some amazing work, and we really appreciate your efforts. Thank you so much for joining us here on New Day.
Thank you, Paolo.